Okay, so our last video, we're going to go into this term paper instructions document that we've got here. And I'm going to click here as I did with the syllabus for a better view. I would suggest you download a copy of this to your device as I suggested with the syllabus, that you don't need to be online to see it. The term paper is worth 200 points. In addition to those 200 points, there's 50 additional points that you'll earn for two different kinds of foundational work, so 25 points each for those that I'm going to ask you to do in the month leading up to the term paper. So the term paper is due, where is it? Term paper is due on April 30th. And so on the 2nd, which is 4 weeks before, you have your works cited page. So by the beginning of April, you're going to need all of your resources. And you're going to put those in an APA style reference list for me and submit that. And then 2 weeks before the paper's due, or 2 weeks after the works cited page, you're going to give me an outline. The reason I do this is to first make sure that you're working as you go along and not torturing yourself by leaving it all to the last minute. So that's number one. But also it gives me a chance to help you and to know that you're off base in some way, or a month before the paper's due, and to give you guidance for how to get back on track. So the paper asks you to first choose a specific disorder among the disorders that we talk about this semester. And so we're going to work, our textbook works off of it, and all of our information is going to work off of the latest edition of the DSM-5. And it's a text revision we're in right now, but any edition of the DSM-5 will be fine for you. You don't need a copy of it, but the library has one. There's also, and I will show you before we log off, actually, you can access that at the library as well. So if you want to look through it, you can. But your textbook is a really good indicator as well. And so there's outlines of all of the disorders in there in addition. So you have to pick a specific disorder, not a category of disorders. You're not going to pick anxiety disorders. You're going to have to pick panic disorder or social anxiety disorder or one of the other specific anxiety disorders. Right? So for an example, so you can pick any disorder you'd like from the DSM. And you're going to find 8 peer-reviewed articles that have been published within the last 5 years to help you answer specific questions for the paper. So I'm assuming all of you, because you should have been, that all of you were introduced to what peer-reviewed articles are and how to use our library databases back in Psych 111. If any of you haven't, if any of you are not familiar with that or feeling rusty at that for some reason, please reach out to me. That's a really great meeting in office hours to get you on track with that. But otherwise, I'm going to assume that that you got what you needed for this in your previous psych course or courses. Right, so you're going to, I do ask you to think a little bit as if you were writing to a hypothetical family. You don't need to do anything with that. You don't need to tell me who the family is. You don't need to actually address anything about the family in your paper. But in your mind, I think it's problematic that students are almost always writing to people who have more expertise on the topic than they do, right? So you're writing to me about clinical psychology. You're talking to me about disorders, but I have a PhD in clinical psychology. I have a therapy practice. Like, you know that I likely have more expertise than you do. And that often leads to students not explaining things well or not owning their own expertise that they've developed. And so I want you to write as if you're telling somebody who really has no information about this, about what you've learned. Right, so that's kind of the background or the feeling I want you to have while you're writing this. And you're going to find these 8 peer-reviewed articles, all published in the last 5 years. So we're 2023 just started. Let's assume that from 2017 on is going to be fine for us. And there's 3 basic sections to the paper. What does the research tell you about the likely cause or causes of the disorder? So why do people develop this disorder? What does the research tell you about the best treatment options, both medication-based treatment and non-medication-based treatment? And what is the prognosis or likely outcome for the individual? What is life likely to be for them with this disorder? Is it likely to be an ongoing disorder or something that's going to happen for only a short period of time? What is their families or friends, I suppose, experience likely to be because the person has this disorder? Right? And you're going to use your peer-reviewed articles to answer those questions. In addition, there's a final fourth section of the paper where I ask you to take a look just by a quick Google search. So just Google it and take 4 websites from that first page of Google Returns, just so you can make a comparison between what your research-based information told you when you were looking at peer-reviewed articles and what the typical family would find when they Googled this topic, right? Because the typical family, their spouse, their child is diagnosed with major depression, and they are not going to likely go into the literature and read peer-reviewed articles about major depression. They're likely to open up Google and type major depression. And so I want you to get a sense of whether they're going to find good information, whether they're going to find that they never see some information that would be important for them to see, or they have some information that's incorrect. For some of you, for some disorders, you might find that no, Google's a great resource for this. And for others, the answer might be different than that. So for this last fourth section, you're going to need 4 websites. You're not going to use those websites in the other 3 sections of the paper, only in this last section. And then, right, the paper is going to be about 5 to 8 pages in length. I'm telling you how long it should be because I know it makes students uncomfortable if I don't. It's really hard for me to imagine you doing this in fewer than 5 pages. It's really probably not necessary for you to write more than 8. That being said, I have had longer papers that were amazing papers. I'm not going to stop reading after page 8. These are just guidelines for you so you have some sense of how long you should be writing. And you'll have 4 sections. You need to use APA-style headings for each section. So explanation of causes, treatment recommendations, prognosis and family experience, and the accuracy of those websites that you find. And you're going to need an APA-style cover sheet, APA-style, I should take this off of here because students actually don't need to have running heads anymore. We could talk about that. But section headings, right? I mentioned you need a section heading for each of those 4 sections, and then you need a works cited page, and you need to use APA-style citations, in-text citations throughout your paper. We can talk about APA style more as we go along for the semester. If you guys ask me, I'm happy to make a video again about how to do APA style stuff, and the library and the internet. But our library has lots of resources on their webpage about using APA style. Right, final paper due last day of April. Works cited page, which means you need all of your resources by April 2nd, and then an outline by April 16th. The outline, I don't need a specific format for the outline. It should be broken up into those main sections and then have subsections in whatever way makes sense for your paper and the information you have found. It should be a format that is useful for you, that you could take that outline and use it as a guide to writing your paper. And there has to be enough detail in it for me to know that you've already started making sense of what you've read, and but it doesn't, it doesn't, I don't have a specific thing I'm looking for there, except that you've created an outline that a paper could come from. The rubric is here, a very detailed rubric where you see how many points of the 200 are associated with each of the things, each of the elements that we've talked about, and that I think is pretty clear. So as we go along, feel free to ask me for appointments in office hours to talk about the paper. Feel free to post questions and the practical questions about the paper, or email me and ask questions. Okay? All right. Have a good day.